Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Show Low City Council to order. By roll call, see that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilwoman Kakavas, who's been asked to be excused this evening. I'd like to welcome those of you who are with us here tonight in the council chambers, as well as any citizen who may be watching tonight or City 56. We invite you and are grateful that you're participating at home. We'd like to begin this evening tonight with an invocation. We've asked Council Member Alsop if he'd lead us in invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, that I will do that. Those who would like to join with us, please stand.
Our gracious and Heavenly Father, we just thank you for being here tonight, and we just ask that you be with us as we make the decisions for the city of Show Low, and that everything is brought to our attention, that we weigh everything out and we do the things that needs to be done. We just thank you, Father, for the love that you give them to people with the tragedy that we had in Las Vegas. And we just ask that you continue to show your love to them and your support to them. And we ask that you lift those people up in your precious name. We thank you for this time of the season, Lord, with all the colors we have and the beautiful creation that you've made up here. And we just love the red and orange and the yellows. And we just ask that you continue to show your beauty and your love and your gracious for us up here on this mountain. We ask that you be with each one of us tonight, and we ask that your blessings be on every one of us that is here tonight and is at home watching. We ask this in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This time I'd like to just take a mayor's privilege here and honor one of our citizens, one of our council members this evening. And I'd like to read this proclamation here, do a proclamation to him. Whereas Rennie Crittenden, a Show Low resident for the past 20 years, has served honorably and conducted himself with professionalism and fairness as a member of the Show Low City Council. And whereas Councilman Crittenden was inducted on Friday, October 6, 2017 by Phoenix College, one of the 10 colleges in the Maricopa County Community College District, into its Athletic Hall of Fame for his high achievement of athletic excellence, following an illustrious career at North High School in Phoenix as an all-state quarterback and all-state pitcher outfielder. And whereas at Phoenix College, Councilman Crittenden earned dual honors in his freshman year as an All-American in football, as he threw for 21 touchdowns, and an All-American in baseball as a pitcher, and was also named team MVP. I can't believe all this, Randy. This is amazing.
It's made up.
Are you sure? Whereas Councilman Crittenden, in his sophomore year, earned first-team National Junior College Athletic Association All-American quarterback honors after throwing 17 touchdowns and guiding the team to its first undefeated season to win the Shrine Potato Bowl, later leading the team to win the prestigious 1960 NCAA national title. Now, therefore, I, Darrell Seymour, Mayor, on behalf of the Show Low City Council, do hereby proclaim October 18, 2017 as Rennie Crittenden Day in the city of Show Low, and encourage everyone to acknowledge Council Member Rennie Crittenden's distinguished accomplishments as a stellar athlete at Phoenix College, dated the 17th day of October. Rennie, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
1960? Jeez.
You may be my son.
That's a long time ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, come on up here, Bobby, take one of those.
Congratulations.
Come on.
Wait a second.
Okay. Farther away.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
For more information, he was on the front page of the Independent today, so pick up a copy of that and you'll learn a little more about his history, but great job, Randy.
Thank you
Free
very much.
autographs.
Appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda here is a call to the public. Any citizen desiring to speak on a matter that is not scheduled on this agenda may do so at this time. Comments need to be limited to 3 minutes per person and shall be addressed to the city council as a whole. This time I'd like to invite, we have Laurie Nelson and John Wierman who would like to come up and speak about the worldwide celebration of the birth of Baha'i, founder of the Baha'i faith. So turn the time to you.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Laurie Nelson. I reside at 4008 White Mountain Road in Lakeside, Arizona, 85929.
And I'm John Werman. I live in Taylor, 1521 West Harvest Court.
Welcome.
And we are here to inform you about this worldwide celebration regarding the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith. We do have Baha'is here, and we're representing the Baha'is in the southern part of Navajo County, from Show Low down to the reservation. And we're doing our part here in Show Low to celebrate this, and we'd like to invite all of you to come. You each have a brochure about what the Baha'i faith is, I think, on your table there. And we're celebrating it this weekend on the 21st, Saturday evening, 5 o'clock to about 9:30 or 10. And it'll be at Hampton Court Inn and Suites here in Show Low. Even though I live in Lakeside and John lives in Taylor, we'll all be coming to celebrate it here. And we'd love it if some of you could come and help us celebrate that. John has, well, let me tell you just a little bit about the Baha'i faith. It started in 1844, and the whole purpose is really to usher in the, what do I want to say, the maturity of humankind. And we are working toward world peace, freedom from prejudice, equality of women and men, that science and religion agree, and really what the world needs now is to come together because we all live on one planet. We're essentially really all world citizens if you think about it. And this is our purpose. And John would like to read a statement from Doug Ducey.
Thank you.
And we'll make this quick. We know we have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We won't hold you too long. This is from Governor Douglas A. Ducey, State of Arizona commendation. Whereas the Baha'i communities of Arizona have been a vibrant part of Arizona since the year 1900, embracing members from all races, nationalities, and cultural backgrounds. And whereas on October 22nd, 2017, the Baha'i communities of Arizona, their families, friends, neighbors, and colleagues, along with Baha'is worldwide, are commemorating the 200th anniversary of the birthday of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. And whereas the Baha'i communities of Arizona work to build peaceful, law-abiding communities by eliminating all forms of prejudice, enhancing the spiritual life of humanity, and demonstrating the unity and diversity in neighborhoods throughout Arizona. And whereas the community building activities undertaken by the Baha'i communities of Arizona empowers people to work together for the betterment of the world. And whereas the Baha'i Youth and Junior Youth Service Projects serve the greater community while teaching young people to volunteer and serve their community to achieving social good. And whereas Baha'is gathering throughout Arizona are open to all and provide a social space for reflection, consultation, and service to all of Arizona's communities. Now, therefore, I, Douglas A. Ducey, Governor of the State of Arizona, do hereby recognize October 22nd, 2017 as the bicentennial birthday of Baha'u'llah. And it's signed by the Governor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
For the opportunity.
Anyone else for a call to the public? Seeing nobody moved, I'll close the call to the public and come back to council if we can. Would like to move the consent calendar up at this time here. We have some people here that are on some time restraints, if that's okay. Okay. Items that we have, is there any item on the consent calendar that needs to be pulled or discussed separately? I'll go through those items here. We have cities and towns proclamation. We also have the community fast, compassion for those in need for the November 12th to the 18th proclamation. Consideration of acceptance of a 16th Avenue water line replacement. We have the consideration of acceptance of 10th Avenue roadway improvements, consideration acceptance of East Owens sewer line, consideration of Smart Table mini grant, and consideration of acceptance of a U.S. Department of Agriculture grant for a feasibility study, and the consideration of the minutes of the Show Low City Council, October 3rd, 2017. Any comments or questions? Look for a motion. Councilmember Crittenden.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
A motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that pass 6-0. Just want to point out, great job to our, city workers here and Shane Himmelsoff from his department. We had 3 projects that were approved here, acceptance, and all 3 of these projects were under budget. And so I don't think I've ever had a meeting where all 3 of them came in under budget. We've approved at the same time, so appreciate that. I'd like to read, if we can, this first proclamation here. I'm going to read it this time, is the proclamation for the community fast. If we could just have, I know we have some guests here tonight. If you guys would like to just come up here as we read this proclamation, and then we'll present you with this here if you want to just sit here on the front. We have President Steve Williams. We have Pastor Heckathorn, Danny, President Crandall, and President Hall. Thank you. Whereas the community service has always been a part of America's as well as Show Low's heritage, and whereas the number of those in need in our area seem to be an always ongoing number, and the people of our community have always shown a sincere desire to help those in need, especially during the holiday season. Whereas a number of faith-based and other organizations approached the city of Show Low in 2013 with a plan to help those in need in our community. And whereas the city of Show Low embraced this concept, out of which was born the community fast of compassion for those in need. And whereas the city of Show Low and its citizens have discovered that the community fast is a very worthwhile cause that has made a huge difference in the lives of many in our community. Now, therefore, I, Darrell Seymour, Mayor, on behalf of the Show Low City Council, do hereby proclaim November 12th to the 18th, 2017, as Community Fast of Compassion for Those in Need Week, and urge all citizens of Show Low to come together for the 5th Annual Community Fast of Compassion for Those in Need. Join with us in setting aside one day during this week to fast and pray for guidance, grace, and protection for our great city and nation, as we address the challenges of our time and the concerns of those in need. Donate the cost of 1 or 2 meals or more if possible from this fast to this worthy cause, with donations accepted at Show Low City Hall, National Bank of Arizona, Chase Bank, Washington Federal, and Arizona Central Credit Union. And join us in a community celebration on November 19th, 2017 at 6 p.m. at the Show Low School District Auditorium, dated the 17th day of October 2017. This I'd like to present you guys tonight with these proclamations. Okay, thank you for what you do. And if you'd like to take a brief moment, you're welcome to too. So, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Brian, Jared. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Pastor Steve Heckthorn. I represent Living Faith Church out in Linden, and our church has been a part of this, and I've been part of this fast personally now for 4 years. One of the things that this fast has become is probably one of the more successful organizations that have been able to bring charity to the city of Show Low and Linden and Pinedale with the minimum amount of invasion into people's personal space. So nobody's soliciting anybody at their home, nobody's soliciting anybody at places of work. It's all free will offerings. And the ease of what you can give at the different banks and at the city of Show Low, which I personally want to thank the city of Show Low, each and every one of you, for allowing this to happen. In the last 4 years, we've raised over $52,000. That makes us one of the most successful charities in the White Mountains in the last 5 years. A lot of what we have had in success is because of the sponsorship and the city of Show Low getting behind us. So from myself personally and those on the committee, we want to tell you thank you. We appreciate your support. I would like to invite each of you personally to the celebration on November 19th at the Show Low High School Auditorium. I think it's probably one of the greatest events we have in the city of Show Low, with a interfaith gathering of churches and community leaders to celebrate really what Show Low West community has become and what we can do together. So I want to say personally thank you to Mayor Seymour and the Show Low City Council for your support on behalf of this, I think, well-worthy cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you for you've helped our citizens and our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Steve. Mayor and City Council members, thank you again for having us back. This is the 5th annual Show Low Community Fast. For those that aren't familiar with it, that may be watching, the fast, as you said, Mayor, there's 1 week in November that's set aside as the week of the fast. People are encouraged to pick 1 or 2 meals during that week to fast, donate the money they would have spent or more to a common fund. And every penny that's raised goes to help local families in need over the holidays. In the previous 4 years, we've worked through the Community Fast Committee, which I'm a part of, and Pastor Steve and others, as well as the mayor, sit on that committee. The committee has worked through 17 different organizations, local organizations, who are in a position to identify people in need to distribute those monies. So every penny of that $52,000 has gone to help local residents over the holidays. It's been a great blessing, and it's a tribute to the area that we live in. This is a community event. It's not a church-sponsored event or church-driven event, but there are a number of churches that participate. By my count, I'm aware of at least 16 congregations that have participated in the fast. Most of them every year for the last 4 years, but over the last 4 years. And that seems to grow every year. That celebration on November 19th, some of the churches do perform musical numbers, and then some of the organizations that monies were given to the previous year talk about how those monies were used. And that may be monies distributed to school teachers to identify kids in need, the VFW, the Safe House, the Senior Center, places like that. That's always inspiring to hear those remarks. And this is worth coming because the mayor gives the closing remarks every time. So that's worth coming just for that, right? But I just want to thank the mayor for your support of this and your efforts in this, and the city council. Without your support on this, it wouldn't be the success that it has been. And we hope to continue this for many, many years to come. And so I just say thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Our next item is the proclamation here for Arizona Cities and Towns Week. Whereas the citizens of the city of Show Low rely on local government to experience a high quality of life in our community. And whereas local governments in Arizona work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to deliver city services such as police, public works, and emergency services to create safe and viable communities. And whereas the methods of funding these vital city services are not always clearly understood by citizens, and whereas it is one responsibility of city officials to ensure that legislators, media, and citizens understand their local government through open and frequent communications using various avenues and means. Whereas it is important to work to encourage this connection and inform citizens of the importance of state shared revenues to preserve the excellent delivery of services that our citizens have come to expect in our city. Whereas through education and awareness, citizens, community leaders, and city staff work together to ensure that services provided by the city of Show Low remain exceptional elements of the quality of life of our community. Therefore, I, Darrell Seymour, Mayor, on behalf of the Show Low City Council, do hereby proclaim October 15th through the 21st, 2017 as Arizona Cities and Towns Week. And in observance of this event, the City of Show Low will host third graders as they tour municipal facilities to introduce the students to the workings of local government. This time we just have a short presentation that we'd like to show about cities and towns.
Day and night, sun up to sundown. People who ensure the safety, protection, well-being, the convenience and enrichment. Those who live, work, and play in every city and town in Arizona are constantly at work. And thanks to each and every one of these services, many that you never think of, Arizona cities keep businesses at work, libraries open, traffic lights blinking, clean water flowing, and so much more, keeping life as we know it moving. They say that a city never sleeps, and thanks to Arizona Cities at Work, that has never been so true. Learn more about how your Arizona cities and towns work.
Thank you. We'd like to just thank all of our personnel that work at the city, that keep things going, keep everything working, our streets, our lights, our infrastructure. It's just they do a magnificent job. We want to thank each one of them. And if you see one of those city workers this week, stop by and holler at them and tell them thanks. Appreciate it. Next item we have then is special events. We have a presentation of a semi-annual report by Shoals Chamber of Commerce, Jimmy Applegate.
Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. Good to see you. Congratulations, Rennie. That was
Thank you.
he passes and passes. It's amazing. Didn't know that. So we're doing great at the Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate the council and the city's support, as always. I want to run through some of the quarterly numbers and then talk to you about year-to-date numbers, and then go into the finances real quick, give you an update of where you are, and then want to talk to you about some of the changes that we've made at the Chamber of Commerce that are fun and impressive. So real quick, just the quarterly ones, just a summary so you have them. The total numbers for the quarter for folks that are visiting the Chamber of Commerce locally, 365, in-state, 1,500, over 1,500, out-of-state, 675, and then foreign visitors are 43 for a total of 26.5. That's a good number for a quarter for us. The next one down you see there are website statistics. And as of the beginning of the year, we started tracking, beginning of last year, we started tracking website stats with our new web page. And so you see sessions and users, page views, and the page views are 29,000. That's a huge number for the quarter. That's bigger than any other quarters we've had since we've had that page up there. Also, starting last year, we started tracking social media and have employed a member of the Chamber of Commerce, her business, to help the Chamber with all of our social media pages, and she's done a phenomenal job. You can see the post engagements for the quarter over 204,000. Again, another record. So she's doing a great job. There's several pushes. You see some of the numbers in the quarter, in the months, higher than the other months. It's because we do a push and we focus on it for a while and then draw back and see where we go. The bottom section that you see are reports that we send out from referrals, and both one of those is relocation and one of those is visitors. And so people will call in regularly or visit our website and inquire about a relocation packet. We send them out a group of information. The total for the quarter is 24 packets sent out, and then vacation visits as well. They'll inquire about that via phone call or a letter or the website, and we'll send out packets to help them know about the area when they're getting ready to visit. So the total for the quarter on that was 40, good number. The next page is the year-to-date, so you can bounce this quarterly up against last year's quarterly and kind of see where they are. The most significant, I think, is the top column where it's, again, visitor count. So if you look at bottom total quarter one, for January 2017, 720 versus last year's January at 1149. So we're down, right? Second quarter, is 1784 versus last year's second quarter at 2016, and then in third quarter we really picked it up. So 2653 versus last year's third quarter at 1892. I think that was a lot to do with the fire, but if you look at the totals, we're already above last year's year to date. Just because of third quarter we picked it up good. So that's been good to see that, and I think the city reflects or sees that reflection regularly with revenues, and so it's good to see where that's coming from. If the next page is where we actually see where those people are coming from. So we break that up by that pie chart on the top corner. The big piece of the pie is red. That's 49%. Those are folks that are visiting the chamber from in-state. Next one is 32% are people that are coming from out of state. 15 is local. We let people answer that themselves if they're local or not. So we presume they're all from the White Mountain regional area. And then that smaller purple piece of pie is the people that are coming in from out of quarter. The 2016-17 two columns that are there are basically a year to date by area, and you can see where everybody's coming in from. And then the last chart on the very bottom is a bar graph that shows you exactly what it looks like. And of course, again, if you go June, July, August, September, we slowly increase over last year's more and more and more until September we're double what we were last year's year to date. So numbers are good and revenues are good and chamber's doing good. The next page is membership page. You have that? You do have that. Good. Upper right-hand corner is a small white box that says January 1st, number 327. That's a number of members of the Chamber of Commerce as of the first of this year. And as we go through that, you can see members that have dropped by month and members that have expanded or joined the Chamber of Commerce by month. And so we're close to right about where we were. We're at 330 right now, so we're ahead by 3. The bottom two columns are really for my board of directors. As we go through the month, I'll let them know who dropped, why they dropped, and then who were new members and that came on board. So really what you can see there is just the 3 that have come on recently in July. Numbers. I think this is the first year, and Councilman Crittenden, correct me if you can remember if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first year that the TIC has been budgeted in the black. And we're on slate to make it there in the black. And so we did some smart corrections to the way the budget was operating for TIC and allocated monies that come into the TIC to the TIC so we can see that reflection and understand where money's coming in from and where it's going out to, and get a better, more real, I think, realistic view of what the numbers look like. We're currently ahead. Our budgeted number income for year to date is $49,957. We're at 53, almost 54, so we're ahead by 4,000. Then if you skip all the way down to your total expenses, we're also ahead there in our expenses at 52.9 versus our budgeted 48,406. That has to do with a map that we purchased. And so because the map is a TIC function, we would have that map as a Chamber of Commerce and a Tourist Information Center. Because we have the Tourist Information Center in the facility, it makes sense that that goes to the Tourist Information Center. So revenues that come in for the sale of the map are budgeted towards the TIC, and the expense of the map is also budgeted towards the TIC. So that's where you see that expense there. The last page is a balance sheet. Most important number you'll see on there is your total current assets, which shows money in the bank at $52,004. Down from what it's been at the beginning of the year, mostly because of a remodel that we did and money well spent in that area, but still up more than it's been for the past, I dare say, 20 years that the Chamber of Commerce has had a balance at that high. So we're doing real good. I'd like to show you just a brief video. We remodeled the Chamber of Commerce recently. It's been a goal that I've had since I've been the director there. Really it had to do with the space just wasn't being used smartly, and it wasn't being used efficiently, and it was really just kind of limping along based on what was already in there. And so we really wanted to save.
Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Show Low City Council to order. By roll call, see that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilwoman Kakavas, who's been asked to be excused this evening. I'd like to welcome those of you who are with us here tonight in the council chambers, as well as any citizen who may be watching tonight or on City 56. We invite you and are grateful that you're participating at home. We'd like to begin this evening tonight with an invocation. We've asked Council Member Alsop if he'd lead us in invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, that I will do that. Those who would like to join with us, please stand.
Our gracious and Heavenly Father, we just thank you for being here tonight, and we just ask.
You'll notice, or you may have noticed, that when you walked into the Chamber of Commerce, it was kind of sectioned off into two separate areas, a front section where you'd be greeted, and then a back section, which really was the meat of the Chamber of Commerce. It had all the brochures and the presentation information if you wanted to get a menu for whatever restaurant or wanted to figure out where Venture Inn is or whatever it was you're looking for. All those brochures were back there. And they were kind of barriered off by this small little walkway. And it's amazing to me how many people would come into the Chamber of Commerce and stop there and ask if they could enter into the back section where they could get a brochure. And that's what we want them to do, is get that information. And they really felt like this was off limits to them. So, I mean, that was our first cue. We've got to open this up. The second thing that you'll notice, right dead center in the middle in the front, is a 52-inch flat screen TV. And it looks like a TV. We use it for more than that. That's actually a monitor. It's hooked to, behind that's a closet, and it's hooked to a computer, which is hooked to my network, and to my network we can get a hold of every single brochure, flyer, anything that has come into the Chamber of Commerce or goes out the Chamber of Commerce that anybody wants to look at, see, or understand about. We can pull it up there and let people look at it, and then hit the print button, go back to the printer and grab it for them. Many times people come in the Chamber of Commerce and they're looking for where anything is. You know, where's that hotel? Where's the nearest park? How do I get to Fool's Hollow? That's a pretty common question, believe it or not. How do I get to wherever it is? My grandma's house is this address. I can't find it. It's easy. Google Maps is right there. We pull it up, we show them exactly where they are and exactly how to get there. And then if they want, hit print and give them the copy, and they can get there real safely and real easily. Another thing we show them is the Chamber of Commerce, our website. When we started that website up, we put our regional calendar on that website, which means not only is it the events and activities that happen in Show Low, but also it's attached to other towns and cities and chambers of commerce in the White Mountain area. So it's regional, and it's being used regionally now by many areas. So people can come in and say, what the heck's going on? This question came from probably the first week that I worked at the Chamber of Commerce, where somebody would walk in and say, you know, my uncle was here last week, or we were up here last year, and there's just nothing to do. What's there to do here? And, you know, us that live up here know there's a truckload to do, especially in the summer, and you just want to grab a hold of them and shake them a little bit and say, there's a lot to do. But really, it becomes our fault that we didn't do a good job presenting to them how to get to and how to find what it is that we have to do. So this regional calendar made sense. So now people walk in and say, hey, what is there to do? And so we click on that regional calendar, and then we show them, here's our website, and here's how to get to the calendar, and here's how to read the calendar, and here's all the events and activities that are going on, and oh, I want to do that one. Well, great, let's print that, and we'll give you a copy of the flyer. And so it's been very, very effective to have that tool at our hands. All of our volunteers understand how to utilize it. I would say daily, but that would be a lie. It's probably every hour to 2 hours that computer is on, and there's a patron in front of that computer, and we're showing them something that they want to do, learn, or understand, or print something off for them. It has been a great tool to have there for us. So that's a reflection of that budget, which is usually at $80,000 in the bank right this time of year, and now it's at $50,000. We spent that on the remodel of the interior of the chamber, so it came out great. So if there's any questions that I can address or answer for you, I again appreciate the opportunity to stand and share with you the news of the Show Low Chamber of Commerce.
Any questions, comments? Appreciate what you do. Rennie, thank you for what you do there to assist on the council as well. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next item we have is a presentation of our snow management plan. Mr. Rick Austin and Mr. Ryan Hall. They're going to predict for us when it will snow.
How much?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Good evening. Staff would like to take the opportunity to present the 2017-2018 snow plan. Here to help me with the presentation is Ryan Hall, Street Supervisor. The city is split into 14 routes and 28 snowplow operators are responsible that 28 snowplow operators are responsible for. The main pieces of the equipment include 4 10-wheel trucks, 2 6-wheel trucks, 3 loaders with plows, and several pickup trucks for cul-de-sacs and smaller right-of-ways. During a snow event, Ryan, the street supervisor, and Matt, the collections supervisor, lost my place, are responsible for coordinating removal operations upon a call out by either me or the police department. Snow removal is classified into 4 levels. Level 1 is reserved for 1/2 inch to 2 inches of snow. When the snow starts to fall, Ryan, Matt, and myself will start monitoring the streets for any slick areas that may need treatment, such as cinders or a mix of de-icer and cinders that were pre-approved by council. Level 2 is reserved for 2 to 3 inches of snow fall. At this point, Public Works is out making sure all the school bus routes, collector streets, transit routes, and city-owned parking lots remain open by a combination of light plowing and cinder spreading. Other Public Works staff at this point is being put on standby for a full call-out. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading my notes here. I'm getting a little further out each year and a little grayer on the head, so bear with me. Level 3 is reserved for 3 or more inches of snow and triggers a full call-out of 2 12-hour shifts that are supervised by Ryan, the A shift coordinator, and Matt, the B shift coordinator. Public Works is split between 2 shifts and snow operations continue until streets are open and passable to traffic. After the snowfall has ceased, streets will be widened and staff will begin snow berm removal process on the approved updated list. Clearing sidewalks around City Hall typically falls under Parks and Recreation area of responsibility. Public Works follows the predetermined sidewalk lists that are in the plan. Level 4 is reserved for severe event that triggers a full haul off of snow that impedes traffic and rescue services to pre-designated dump sites. During a snow event, the airport will be conducting braking action tests on the runway. As the need arises, additional resources from the Public Works Department and manpower may be rotated to assist the snow removal process. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I
Councilmember
don't have a
Alsop?
question. I just, one thing, last year, you guys did a great job. I mean, it's phenomenal how we can get in there and get the roads out and get people out and get them moving again after any type of snow. So I just want to commend everybody that works with Mr. Hall and who was the other one? Rick? Matt. Just, the professionalism you guys have is just unbelievable. So we want to thank you for all the work that you do on that snow removal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I really hope we have a lot of snow this year, and
We do
things
too,
there. I know we
actually.
got some great equipment, and you guys do a wonderful job. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for that equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Next item we have is a presentation and update regarding the boundaries for Justice of the Peace Precincts 5 and 6. We have a representative here from Navajo County, Mr. Brian Layton, and Mr. Steve Williams.
I'm going to switch hats, but before I do, on that community fast, there's 2 corporate or 2 businesses that the council needs to be aware of. Unisource has been very generous the last 3 years in contributing, and Allegra has donated all the print and banners. So there are 2 businesses that the council ought to be aware of. I'm going to switch hats now. So I'm here with the County Board of Supervisors. And as you know, there's 6 Justice Court precincts countywide. Most of Show Low is in Precinct 5, or the Show Low Justice Court Precinct, but part of it's currently in Precinct 6, or the Pinetop Lakeside Justice Court Precinct. As we've looked at it and had discussions with chiefs of police from both communities and city leaders from both communities, it seems to make a lot more sense to have the boundary align with the city boundary so that you don't have, currently, for example, Walmart is in the Pine Top Lakeside Justice Court precinct. So if there's an offense that's committed in that area of Show Low, the case gets filed in Pine Top Lakeside Justice Court, and it requires Show Low police officers to drive out of their precinct to go to court in Pine Top Lakeside. It seemed like there was a better way to do this. And so with me is our Assistant County Manager, Brian Layton. He's going to present a proposal of, after discussions with leaders from both communities, including the police agencies, on perhaps a better way to make alignments come the next election cycle, which is the soonest you can make realignment. So with that, Mayor, if you're okay, I'll invite our Assistant County Manager up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, appreciate your time. I'll share just a few of the details. If I could, here on the map that you have in front of you, the tan area, and then outlined in the orange is City of Show Low city limits. And then in the green there outlined, you have Pine Top Lakeside. And the white area is unincorporated county, unincorporated land with the county. And then the blue area that you see is the precinct boundary line. So everything above that precinct boundary line is Precinct 5 with Judge Price, and everything below is Judge Widmeyer in Precinct 6. And as the supervisor mentioned, we'd like to update that. And in particular, of concern is this area in yellow here. So around Scott Ranch Road and White Mountain. This is the Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's area. And currently, as the supervisor said, Show Low PD responds, but then cites and goes to court in Pine Top Lakeside. So here's the update that we are proposing. You see along the blue line, we tried to accomplish a couple of things. One was to more closely align the border to existing City of Show Low and Pine Top Lakeside boundaries. We also wanted to impact as few residents as possible, so they would stay in the court that they've been going to up to this point, and also to capture that retail area, the Walmart, Show Low, Pine Top, so it stays in Show Low. So they're the boundaries that we have proposed. As far as impacts, we have for public safety some obvious benefits. Show Low police officers are citing in the Show Low court with Judge Price and getting back onto the street as quickly as possible. We see that as a huge benefit. For the justice courts themselves, the exact numbers for the cases originating from the Walmart, Home Depot's, Lowe's is not tracked separately, but both Judge Price and Judge Widmeyer agree that it's not of sufficient size to change the size and the tier of the courts as they are right now, which means that the Show Low court and the Pine Top Lakeside court, they would stay roughly the same size, and the compensation for those judges would stay the same as they are today. We would also expect that the compensation and the workload for the constables would remain about the same what it is. We don't see any changes impacted there as far as compensation or wages go. As far as our residents from the last census, we're estimating that 399 residents would be impacted. As you see there, in Precinct 5 grows by that 399 residents, so it grows slightly. And Precinct 6 decreases by that amount. Anytime we look at changing precinct boundaries, we have to look at impacts to minority populations. In this case, the Native population is of concern. And you see there from the numbers, it changes just slightly. And so we do not see any negative impacts to the general population or to the minority populations with this change. So with that, we will look to take this to the Board of Supervisors by the end of the year. And we brought this to you today for your feedback and just to share with you. So I'm happy to take any questions or suggestions that you have at this time.
Thank you. Questions, comments? What would change in the court itself here in Show Low? Will the location of the court change? What's your projection there?
Yes, on a separate issue, we are looking to move the court just down here to the county facilities there on 9th, behind your offices. So we are looking to renovate that building and place the Justice Court there, give it a little more room, a little more parking, a little more visibility. And also we're planning on bringing a Superior Court down there as well. To this point, we do not have, we just started offering Superior Court services down here in the South County. That'll give it much more visibility and a proper place to hold court.
What makes this change happen? I mean, this is a proposed change. What actually puts it forward? Does it go ballot? Is it county supervisors do it? Who does it?
It's a great question.
I can answer this one.
Certainly.
That's okay. To the previous question, Mayor and council members, the relocating of the Show Low Justice Court, it's currently the McNeil Building, over to the county facility, that's separate from the realignment. But as Mr. Layton had indicated, the presiding judge, Judge Higgins, would very much like to see, and from my perspective, I very much support it, having a full-time Superior Court division here in Show Low to serve our South County residents. It makes sense, so you don't have to drive to Holbrook every time you got to go to the Superior Court. So that's separate from the precinct realignment. By state statute, it's the County Board of Supervisors that has responsibility for determining how many justice courts there should be in the county and where those are supposed to be. So ultimately, it's a County Board of Supervisor vote to realign precinct boundaries. But as I understand it, we would not do that midterm and could not do that midterm. It would have to be part of an election cycle, which would be end of 2018 is when the term ends.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Crittenden.
Okay, I may have missed something, so I'll ask a question. You may have just answered it. There was discussion fairly recently of combining, and I will just summarize it by combining Pine Top and Show Low, the justice courts. What happened?
Yeah, there was a tremendous amount of time put into looking at the caseload of all the precincts countywide and looking at possible proposals of perhaps consolidating to fewer precincts. The decision was made that there was not sufficient savings to the county to be able to justify that. Some of the communities were very concerned about losing a court in their community, which we understood. But as we got into the details of it, and Mr. Layton did a tremendous amount of work on this, as well as others at the county, as we got into the details of it, there just wasn't sufficient cost savings to justify it at this time. So, good question.
Other questions, comments? Appreciate your report here. Thanks for the work that you put forth on this. Thank you. Next item is new business. We have item 8A, public hearing, application submitted by Ernest Villalobos on behalf of La Casita Cafe for person transfer of a number 7 beer and wine bar liquor license for its location. Ms. Ann Kurosaki.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, Ernest Lopez Villalobos, who represents La Casita Cafe, submitted a person transfer application for a number 7 beer and wine bar license. Its location at 5000 South White Mountain Road. La Casita has an existing liquor license, and the request would transfer the license from Ernest Reynoso Villalobos, who is the applicant's father, to the applicant. We posted the property as required by state law. We received no public input. As part of the application, Mr. Villalobos also applied for an interim permit with the Department of Liquor Licenses, and it would allow him to continue selling alcohol while this application is being processed. The interim permit is valid for 105 days. If the application hasn't been approved before the permit expires, he will have to reapply and get a second interim permit. We had the Show Low Police Department conduct a background check on the applicant. They found nothing amiss. The Department of Liquor Licenses will also do its own internal investigations and background check, and based on the investigators' findings and the recommendation of the City Council tonight, the Liquor Board will then decide whether to approve or deny the application. The Council has 2 options to approve or deny it. If you recommend denial, you must state the reasons for denial. Mr. Villalobos is here, in case you have questions of him.
Thank you. Any questions or comments of council at this time? Okay, Councilmember Crittenden?
I move to
Wait,
recommend.
we can't do that yet. We still have to go to public hearing first, so I just
Okay,
want to
never
know if
mind.
there's any questions here. All right, at this time, I'll open this up for public hearing. If there's anyone who'd like to talk on this issue or questions may do so. Seeing nobody moved, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for any questions or a motion.
Nah.
Councilmember Crittenden.
Okay, I move to recommend approval to the State Liquor Board of the application submitted by Ernest Lopez Villalobos on behalf of La Casita Cafe for a person transfer of a number 7 beer and wine bar liquor license for its location at 5000 South White Mountain Road.
I have a motion. We have a second by Councilmember Leach. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 6-0. Thank you. Thank you, Ernie. Congratulations there. You're doing a great job with your restaurant up there.
Thank you.
Next item we have is item 8C, consideration of ordinance number 2017-05, amending Articles 8.1 business license related to residential rentals and sober living homes in Chapter 8, Business of Shoalo. Mr. Justin Trigaskis.
Mayor and members of the council, as discussed in the recent council retreat, staff has been reviewing Article 8.1 entitled Business Licenses found in Chapter 8 Business of the Shoalo City Code. The purpose of this was to determine compliance with state statutes. This review was prompted by citizen inquiries related to short-term vacation rentals and sober living homes in existing residential neighborhoods. Arizona Revised Statute Section 9-500.39 outlines the requirements for cities and short-term vacation rentals. ARS 9-500.40 outlines the requirements for sober living homes. Both sections mandate that cities cannot prohibit these types of uses. Cities can, however, adopt reasonable regulations to protect the public's health and safety through codes tied to building, health and sanitation, transportation or traffic control, zoning related to noise, property maintenance, and other nuisance issues. Based on state statutes and federal fair housing laws, cities cannot prohibit short-term vacation rentals or sober living homes, provided these uses comply with applicable requirements. Article 8-1, business licenses, currently contains no provisions for licensing short-term vacation rentals or sober living homes. Based on fair housing requirements, any licensing requirements of these types of uses must be non-discriminatory and should apply to the city as a whole. As a result, staff is recommending that Article 8.1 business licenses be amended to change those sections pertaining to definitions contained in Section 8-1-1, prohibited business locations and activities, Sections 8-1-4, application issuance of business license found in Section 8-1-6, and suspension revocation, which can be found in Section 8-1-11. The major changes are as follows, and these are shown in Ordinance Number 2017-05 as bolded and underlined for additions or strike-through for deletions. Summary would be renting residential property for commercial gain will be added to the definition of a business. This change would allow staff to be proactive in notifying property owners wishing to rent their property of existing city codes relating to noise, parking, trash removal, and property maintenance requirements. It would also allow revoking business licenses for those properties that do not comply with city code. Property owners will be allowed to file a single business license for multiple business locations owned by the same entity and consisting of similar business types. The current business license fee of $25 for the first year the business is in operation and $10 for each succeeding year remains unchanged. And as an addition, staff would recommend that should the council wish to adopt this ordinance, that they put an effective date of January 1 of 2018. That way people aren't required to come in and get a business license in November and then turn around in January and have to renew it. That would give us also a little bit more time to notify the affected parties. With that, staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councilmember Crittenden?
Does this have any effect, after listening to this, let's say sober living homes, if there's a mobile home park, you can still have as many sober living homes side by side in a mobile home park as you want?
There are no separation requirements or anything along those lines contained in these provisions. There have been some discussion with other cities related to those types of requirements. At this time, we're not certain that we need to go that far. However, that may be something that as this progresses, if we see it becoming a need, that we would bring it back to the council for review.
One more question. Do homeowners associations have any control over sober living homes?
Under fair housing rules, they would have some difficulty enforcing that type of thing.
Wow.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councilmember Alsop?
Can you just go over what Councilman Crittenden just said about the sober living? Can you give definition of that so the public will know what we're talking about?
Sober living home? In general terms, a sober living home would be a residential home which is being used for individuals who are in a some type of a rehab program to help rehabilitate them from alcohol or drug abuse. It cannot contain anyone who is currently using drugs or alcohol. So, for example, if you had a bunch of people and you were concerned that they were currently using illicit drugs, they could not claim that they were a sober living home and were therefore exempt from any regulations. They have to be clean and sober as part of the program.
And how many people can be in a home?
There are no specific requirements. Most of the programs themselves will determine how many people can reside in the home. Generally, it's 2 per bedroom. So a 3-bedroom home, you would have approximately 6 people staying there. That would be consistent with our existing city code, which does not mandate, for example, family size in a single-family home. We do not say that you can only have X number of people staying in a 3-bedroom home under single family. So.
Councilmember Alsop.
And Justin, just from what you're showing us and the information you're giving us, has there been an increase of that throughout the city of Show Low?
We are aware of one entity that is running several of these sober living type homes in the city. In fact, that is kind of what prompted this conversation with staff. We were notified by individuals within an existing neighborhood of a sober living home in their neighborhood. And they had concerns. One concern was, why didn't the city know that it was there? Other concerns were related to, the possible transient nature of individuals coming in, leaving, checking into the program, successfully completing the program and moving on with another phase of their life, and then somebody else coming in. They were concerned about noise from the facility. Trash from the facility, people blocking the road, parking their cars out, in the street instead of in the driveway, those types of things. We were successful in that instance. We actually set up a meeting with the members of the neighborhood and the individual who runs the facility, kind of a meet and greet sort of thing. We have not heard from the neighbors since. That was over a year ago. So I think we were pretty successful in that instance. And working with the facility owner or operator, in helping those people to be responsible members of the community.
So voting for this is not going to stop everything, but hopefully try to conceal it a little bit or at least slow it down.
I don't know that it would do either one of those. What it will do, several things that it could do. One, it allows us the opportunity to meet with the operator or the owner of the property beforehand and explain to them what city code requirements are. Nobody likes to get surprised after they've signed on the dotted line and spent money. So we can let them know, these are the things we're looking at. These are our noise ordinances. These are our property maintenance ordinances. So it gives us that opportunity to be proactive. It also allows us the opportunity to at least have a little bit better handle on perhaps where these facilities are. So when we get a phone call, from a neighbor asking questions, we can say, yes, we are aware of that one. They do have a business license with the city. Here are the requirements that they need to follow. And, if they're not following those, or if you have a concern, please let us know and we can contact the owner. So I think there's multiple things that it allows us to do. It also allows us, if we get to the very end of the process, we have a property owner that we've tried to work with, over and over, and they just can't seem to resolve issues that they have with their property, in accordance with city code. Ultimately, we could ask that their business license be revoked, which would mean they would no longer be able to rent that property and utilize it as either a vacation rental or a long-term rental or a sober living home. So it gives us a little bit more opportunity with some enforcement there as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, and of course, Justin, we've had a conversation and talked about it at the retreat, and I'm not on board with this. You mentioned just a minute ago that gives you a chance to visit with and meet with the property owner when they apply for their license. That almost implies that somebody who lives in California, owns a property here, has it under property management with some real estate firm, has to come here to apply for their license. I don't think that's true.
No, they would not be required to show up in person and fill out all the forms. They could do that at a distance. Again, it just gives us the opportunity to know that somebody perhaps from California who's not aware of perhaps what our codes are. It allows us to let them know, hey, this is what you need to be looking at up front.
And the firms on the mountain that may be managing 100 or more properties do not have the opportunity for that brokerage to obtain the license. They have to have each owner obtain the license. Is that my understanding?
The license would be required of each property owner. However, the property management firm could act as, an intermediary between the property owners that they have listed and the city. We have no objection at all, and in fact, that's something that we would hope would happen, is that these property management firms would, let their owners know that this is a change, and then we would work with them in getting those licenses issued for those properties. One change, and we highlighted it here in the staff report, but currently, if I own two businesses in town and they're the same type of business, but they're at separate locations, we require you to get a business license for each location. One of the proposed revisions that's before you this evening would allow for a person who operates multiple businesses within the city that are of a similar type, they're just scattered throughout, that they would not be required to obtain multiple business licenses. They could list each location on a single business license application. So if you have a property owner that owns, let's say, 10 properties, they would not have to get 10 separate business licenses. They could if they chose to, and we do have some people, because of tax purposes and things like that, feel that they would prefer to have a separate business license for each property. But we feel that that is one step that would help make this perhaps a little less onerous on those property owners who do have multiple properties.
May I continue? So I'm also to understand that when one applies for their business license, there's no compelling reason at all for them to tell you if it's short-term rental, annual contracts, sober living, single family, any of these different uses would not be disclosed. So it seems to me the city is now going to accumulate a list of addresses that are rental properties with no way of knowing which ones might be sober living and might not be. And that information is available through the county by the owners having to designate if it's for rental purpose or not. Now, I'm here to tell you those records are not complete. I wouldn't tell you they are because I know better. I'm sure the county's trying to get them all up to date, but we're going to inconvenience and charge, I'm guessing, hundreds of property owners for us just to know the property is rented with no clue as to whether it's sober living, single family, short-term, long-term. And I just fail to see how this is worth to the city a benefit that is offsetting to our community. Now, I've actually predicted to some and some of our staff that you aggravate people enough, and every city election that comes up, and I'm voting no, I don't mean me personally, but because you didn't repair the pothole in front of my house, because you didn't put enough patrol in our neighborhood, or because you gave me a ticket, or because. And it seems like, underlying here, we're trying to say we would like people not to have rental properties in Shoalo. We're going to discourage the ownership of rental properties, albeit a small fee. It's an aggravation. And I just fail to see how simply knowing that property might be rented and it might be owner occupied next year. I know from property management, which I'm no longer involved with, that people would call in and say, do not renew the annual lease on this property. We're going to reoccupy it. We're going to bring it back into our possession. Our son or daughter or whoever's moving back to Shoalo, would they need to be sure and notify the city it's no longer a rental? Just not renew the license? It just seems like, I hate to say it, but a typical government solution. Any problem that arises, we'll make a new regulation for it, and that'll solve everything. I'm going to ask the fellow council members to vote no on this. I just don't see the redeeming value for, and then I know I've asked you earlier and warned you I'd ask you in public, how many rentals do we have in Shoalo? How many rental properties how many people are we talking about here?
Right, and as I indicated earlier, we don't know.
Well, you know the short-term ones, you gave me a number.
If you go on to popular short-term rental websites, there's approximately 121 or so that are listed on that website in the Shoalo area. How many of those, actually in Shoalo? If you go just the Shoalo zip code, it expands to over 300. How many of those are owned by the same owner? I don't know that. As Mr. Kelly's indicated, even just going with the county records as far as primary versus non-primary residents wouldn't necessarily yield a 100% accurate number, even with that. So when we're asked how many, the honest answer would be, I could not sit here and tell you. I know we have how many vacation rentals are listed on a website, but that's about it.
And then, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sure glad we had a retreat.
How would we propose to notify all of these owners, resident and non-resident, that they need to do this to be in compliance? Otherwise, we have somebody who is failing to be in compliance with the city code out of ignorance. Okay, ignorance is no excuse. Well, who's going to look up and see what?
I think the penalty of not having a city license would be you would probably ask them to go and to get a city license, okay? So there's not a penalty if they don't have one currently, in the city. So I'm just going to interject here a little bit. I agree with what you're saying to a point, Gene. But the other point is, we could have 50 businesses operating in Show Low today, and 5 of those businesses may not even have a license to operate
That's true,
whatsoever.
I'm
And we
sure.
could have 200 of these rentals that never do get a license. But I would like the protection if I had next door to me a sober living come in, and I've got 6 or 7 transient people coming, and they get rowdy, or maybe it's even a vacation rental and they're rowdy on every weekend, and then pretty soon I can't tolerate living next to that. I just have to say, I have to move, because they're not going to. They're happy, they're by the law, they're abiding. With this, we could then have a complaint. They could go out and they say, are you a sober living home? Yes. Do you have a city license? No. You have to get one. Now, if they are not adhering to the codes and the things of the city, we have recourse against that business owner, that property owner, to comply. And I think we owe that to our citizens, to protect them from these type of things coming in that can be a detriment to their property values and a detriment to the neighborhood. They're serving a purpose, but there are cities in the state of Arizona that has a great concern where 10s of 20s of these are moving in certain areas, and they're becoming a subdivision. They're going to be subsidized by the government. The property owners don't really care what happens. Some of these people will fall off the wagon. I'm a little concerned if I have children around and I have 6 or 8 people who were just recently released from drug rehab, and they're in there. At any moment, they can become a user again. And now there's going to be drug trafficking going to and from. So I feel it's a good thing to have. We're not mandatoring that by this date, everybody in town that's a rental has to have it. There's many businesses that have operated in the city of Show Low for years and years without a business license. And we don't even know that. We're not penalizing them. We would just ask them to get a license if there's a problem. So I think if there's a problem, we ask them to comply. But then we have a little bit of a mechanism to remove them or bring them to the proper codes of, living ability. Okay? Councilmember Alsop, and then we'll go back to you,
Go ahead.
Councilmember
No,
Kelly,
after
whoever
you.
wants to go.
Go ahead, after you.
The question I have, Justin, maybe you can answer this one for me then. In the years past, every time we pass a subdivision, everything else, we have terms and codes and stuff that we have to do. And some of them in there says single family occupants and everything else. Owner must own, da-da-da-da-da. Is this going to change that?
So if I can restate, I believe what Councilman Alsop is referring to is the CC&Rs that are generally associated with the subdivision. Is that accurate?
No, not the CC&Rs, but what we mandated.
The conditions of approval
Yes.
okay. We cannot give any conditions of approval that would violate federal or state law. In the case of fair housing requirements, we could not give a condition of approval on a subdivision that would say you cannot rent to or sell to members of a particular race, for example. Race, gender, those types of things are a protected class as far as fair housing goes. The Supreme Court has ruled that those people who are going through sober living facilities are also members of a protected class. So in response to your question, no, we could not give a condition of approval that would violate those fair housing laws for those subdivisions.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yeah, in direct response to part of your comment, it's my understanding we can't even ask them on the application.
No, we can't, but we can go on a call and we can ask them if they're sober living, and then we can tell them,
that?
you're required to get a license. At that time, they have to get a license.
On a complaint, let's say it's a noise violation.
This is ridiculous.
Loud party. Can we show up as authorities and law and say, are you part of a sober living facility? Can we say that? I'm asking our attorney. I understood we could not. we could deal with the noise violation, but not under the requirement of, oh, you're sober living and we're going to revoke your license.
I think on a business license, Gene, we can ask what the nature of their business is. If it's a sober living home, then they put that down. If it's a residential rental, they put that down. If it's a short-term vacation rental, they put that down on the license. We ask that all the time. What is your
But
business?
we can know ahead of time by the license application. And if an individual has solar living as a business and he puts residential rental, then that's a false application?
If I can
we're getting
expand,
somewhere. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
if I can expand on that a little bit. So when people come in and apply for a business license application, there is a section on there that says brief description of nature of business. And we get all kinds of brief descriptions of nature of business. Some of them we have to call them and clarify what it is that brief description really means. I'm anticipating that most of these will probably just say residential rental on them. I don't think that the property owners are going to go into a lot of detail as to what type of rental it is. And for the purposes of this ordinance, that would satisfy the purpose of this ordinance. The people who are running sober living homes, they need to get a separate business license by nature that they are running their own business. So you would have the property owner who is renting his property, and he may be renting it to me, and hopefully, me and my family don't cause too much of a disturbance in the neighborhood. They may be renting it to people who just come up for the weekend. They may be renting it as a sober living, and any one of those could be classified as a residential rental under brief description. The person who is running the business of a sober living would also need to have a current business license in the city of Show Low. So we have a current sober living group that is running. They have a business license here in the city. So we would have actually two potentials there. One with the property owner, and it's up to the property owner to make sure that his renters are following city code. And then you have the business owner who would also be responsible for making sure that his clients are complying with city code. So in the case of a sober living home, we would actually have two separate abilities to work with the property owner and the business owner to make sure that things are being complied with and taken care of, and that neighborhood concerns are being addressed.
Other questions? Okay, look for a motion on this in your motion. If you're in favor of it, if you would note again that it needs to be effective January 1st, 2018.
Mayor?
This
would you
time
like-
I need to turn to Ann to read by consent ordinance number 2017-05 by title only, since all council members have a copy.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Show Low, Arizona, amending Article 8.1 business licenses related to residential rentals and sober living homes in Chapter 8 business of the Show Low City Code.
Thank you. And I'll look for a motion. Councilmember Leach,
I move to adopt ordinance number 2017-05,
you state the effective date.
January 1st, 2018.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it. Is there any other discussion? Look for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 5-1. Thank you. Next item we have is item 8D, liquor license. Consideration of process and approval of certain liquor licenses. Ms. Ann Kurosaki.
Thank you, Mayor. At the October retreat, the City Council and staff discussed the approval process for 3 types of liquor licenses: special event applications, temporary and permanent extension of premises / patio permits, and acquisition of control applications. The Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses does allow staff of local jurisdictions to approve these types of licenses on behalf of the governing body. The exceptions are licenses like tonight that require a public hearing before the council, and that includes new, interim, or transfer permits for establishments serving alcohol. The intention of the Department of Liquor Licenses is they want to streamline and shorten the process for applicant filings, which is why they have expanded their allowing staff to approve it for the governing body. Staff now is proposing the council allow staff to approve 3 types of licenses. One is an acquisition of control. Another is an extension of premises permit for, and this, I want to clarify, is for a recurring request by the same organization at its currently licensed location. So the council would have to approve an initial request, and we're talking about succeeding requests after that. And the third would be a special event license application, again for a recurring event by the same organization at the same location, as long as the council approves the initial event. The exception would be any special event that's held on city-owned property, and that we would always bring back to the council for consideration. We would continue a current practice we do now, which is we have the police department conduct a background check, and for recurring events, we always do ask the police department whether there were any problems with previous events. If there are, the staff would bring it back to the council for consideration. So this is
Thank you.
council's pleasure. Thank you.
Any questions? Not all. Councilmember Alsop.
The only question I have is there's, the wording is the staff to approve 3 types. There's nothing in here that says approve or disapprove. We don't worry about the disapprove?
Well, the disapproval would only come if there were problems with an event. If there were, then we would bring it back to the council and have you folks make the final determination.
I was just concerned about the wording, so.
Okay.
Look for a motion. Councilmember Crittenden.
I move to authorize the city clerk's office to approve 3 types of liquor licenses on behalf of the city council: acquisition of control applications, temporary and permanent extension of premises / patio permits for recurring events, and special events license applications for recurring events, with the exception of any special event held on city-owned property.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Leach. Any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? See that passed 6-0. Thank you. Next item we have is a summary of current events. Council members wishing to speak on current events may do so at this time. Councilmember Crittenden.
This isn't a current event, but I would like to thank everybody tonight. I don't know who set this up, but I will hurt them. On the proclamation, I thank you very, very much.
You deserve it, Randy. Thank you. Councilmember Alsop.
Thank you, Mayor. Hope everybody enjoyed their Oktoberfest this year. There was one on October 11th at the Senior Center, so I'm hoping everybody took time to get some meals from them and enjoyed the Oktoberfest. Also attended a Main Street Board meeting. Well, where we talked about the different things. The farmers market was a great success this year. They already are taking names and stuff for vendors for next year, so they had a good time and hoping to expand it again next year. Also, remind everybody that Saturday, October 28th is the Spooktacular Festival, and it's going to be right here in downtown Show Low. It's going to start at noon and end somewhere around 8, 9, 10, whatever time it finally gets over with, and all the little kids get and have their great time. So that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council member? I just want to remind everybody we're receiving ballots here for the school bond, and just encourage you to know the issues on that event, and get out and make sure you send your ballots in. This time I'll turn the time to City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. there's quite a bit going on. First off, our BMX racing season at the BMX track at Nicholas Homestead Park is coming to an end. The final 2 races are this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. And then there'll be one next Saturday, October 28th at 4 p.m. There's limited space and pre-registrations required. So if you want more information on those races, 532-4140. Our recreation department's also planning 3 Halloween-themed events in October, including underwater pumpkin hunt for teenagers ages 11 to 17 this Saturday, October 21st from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Aquatic Center. Then they have a spooky sprint run for kids 0 to 10 years old next Thursday, October 26th, 5:30 p.m. at the senior field, followed by a terror trail for teens 11 to 17 at 7 p.m. Again, Recreation Department's number is 532-4140. Then the library is offering art classes for kids ages 4 to 10 this Friday, October 20th, from 4 to 5:30 p.m. The class size is limited, and so pre-registration is required. You can call the library at 532-4070. And next Friday, the library, that's on October 27th, the library is hosting a family-friendly Halloween carnival from 6:30 to 8 with pumpkin carving, games, costumes, parade, prizes, and goodies. We have several public works projects happening around town, including milling and overlaying of Shoal Lake Road and sewer upgrades in the Westwood subdivision. Crews are also doing ditch maintenance on East Owens following recent repairs to the sewer lines and the water lines on that road, and it's scheduled to be milled next week with an overlay the following week. And also roadway improvements for some roads in the Park Valley subdivision are scheduled to begin this week and continuing into next week. And finally, work on the ADOT paving projects, which we hear a lot about, from the intersection US 60 Deuce Clubs and State Route 77 to 40th Street continues. Our city engineer attended the weekly project meeting today and learned from ADOT and the contractor that paving will continue on the south side of US 60 with completion scheduled for later next week. Then the work will move to the north side of the roadway with the traffic routed to the south side. The contractor's estimated completion for the entire project will be mid-December, weather permitting. So we'll see how that project goes, but they're making some progress now, and hopefully they can get most of that done before winter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Scheduling of meetings. I see we don't have any schedule of meetings. We're going Thursday over to a meeting there in Eager. So, all right, see no other business. I'll adjourn this meeting.
There.